So it's actually been a little bit since I finished Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward. Those of you guys that have been keeping up with the channel for the past few months, you guys would know that I've been making my way through the Final Fantasy XIV story. That way I can be caught up in time for Endwalker releasing this November at the time of this recording. And I honestly didn't know how to record this video. This is one that I tried scripting over and over, and I couldn't get it right. Nothing sounded right when I tried speaking it. Nothing properly, explained exactly how I felt. And I was told this would probably be the case. So I was advised from a couple people that I asked that I should probably go unscripted, maybe a couple outlines here and there for it. I want to talk about why Heavensward is the story of Final Fantasy that, at least for up to Heavensward, I haven't played anything else. I'm actually in Stormblood right now, but I'm probably only around maybe 6 hours into Stormblood maybe, so we haven't really gotten into it yet. But I think up until Heavensward's release, I think that's probably the best Final Fantasy story ever. And this was a lot for me to actually admit, because I have heavy bias towards Final Fantasy IX, primarily because before Final Fantasy IX, my aspect of story telling in Final Fantasy wasn't the best. I don't want to necessarily call out the game that maybe not care about Final Fantasy too much at first, because I will definitely anger somebody about that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But that game gave me a kind of negative impression. I didn't really care about the aspect of storytelling, and honestly, it wasn't even really the story that really got me. It was kind of the gameplay. But in general, I didn't really have the best experience with Final Fantasy before then. But Final Fantasy IX kind of kicked all those thoughts to the curb and really showed me what Final Fantasy can be. You guys heard me in the video when I talked about charm and everything, and what makes characters so cool. This was honestly a big one that I was thinking about as well. I talked about Final Fantasy in that video and how well it does at blending settings together. A Final Fantasy game can seem futuristic yet archaic, and old-timey at the exact same time. And I feel like Final Fantasy IX excelled at this. At the same time, everybody, it looks like this town was built, with hands themselves by the people who live here, while at the same time, in other places, we're flying in airships and stuff like that. So it had a perfect blend of all these things that I like about different aspects of settings in fantasy games. And Final Fantasy, obviously you start out Final Fantasy IX trying to kidnap a princess. The shoe's on the other foot, Mario fans, so it's like, it really felt different. That intro made me realize how different this game was going to be. Like, it ended up being a game about, the importance of life and the inevitability of death, and it's more about what's important, is what you do with the time that you're here, and what you make of the life that you have and stuff like that. And it had aspects of genocide in it, and how that affects people. All these kinds of themes were all super important in Final Fantasy IX, and it's still today one of my favorite, RPGs, ever. And I truly love Final Fantasy IX. So it took a lot for me to say that I think Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward had a better story. And honestly, this is coming from somebody who really loved The Realm Reborn, especially after everybody telling me, it kind of sucks. I loved A Realm Reborn, but man, I can't help but tell you, Heavensward completely swept me off my feet. I really felt like Ishgard was like another home to me, despite all of its problems. The fact that, they ended up trying to be a place to where we can have refuge after what happened at the end of A Realm Reborn, but it kind of ended up being a place that couldn't really hide its problems. All the corruption and the lies that have been going on, for lifetimes. It just all ended up, winding up to be something that I just didn't expect. I just thought it was gonna be, dragoons fighting dragons, let's go. But it ended up being, the dragons ended up being some of the most, hurt people out of all of these people. You'd think that, the humans would be the ones who've been suffering at the hands of dragons for all this time, even though they all kind of suffered the hands of everybody. But dragons were the ones who, I guess, were hurt first by this. Peace was established for a while, but then it took humans, you know, I guess for a lust for power to really just come and try to ruin it. And it just goes to show you that, you know, not everything is as it seems. You have to really dive in to see the intricacies of a world and the people within it. I met some of my favorite characters, and despite spending, you know, over 100 hours, you know, with these characters, maybe even 200 hours with these characters, you know, it's like, I still can't pronounce everybody's name, you know, but I feel like even if I don't know how to pronounce some of their names, because obviously I'm just an American and I'm not the best at pronouncing things, these people still just mean so much to me, man. It's kind of obvious from this video, but I will be spoiling Heavensward in some aspect. I won't be going fully in depth, but if I talk about who dies and stuff like that, that's to be expected. But one death in there that really got me was Lord Harshfall. If you play 14, you know who I'm talking about. Man, like, that was a death I didn't see coming until it happened. Like, right before it happened, I said, no, like, and they really rubbed his death in your face. They like, and that's what I love about it. I mean, that sounds horrible, but I love that they weren't scared to show you, you know, the loss of a very important friend. And especially out of everybody in Ishgard, he was the one we really encountered first. He was the one that really made us feel like we had friends in Ishgard, you know, like we really got to meet with them and really get to know them. And the fact that he cared about us enough, and he trusted our, you know, Ishgard's fate to us when he died, and that's why he sacrificed himself for us. It made me lose it, man. It made me absolutely lose it. The fact that he was born here and he trusted an outsider, even though, you know, I'm the warrior of light, he trusted an outsider with Ishgard's fate. He trusted that we could get this done, and we did. And it just, like, it made me feel like he didn't die for nothing. And I know you can say, oh, he didn't die for nothing, you know, but at the end of the day, I'm still sad because he's gone. Yeah, I was able to honor him and, you know, be able to make sure his trust wasn't misplaced, but that doesn't bring him back, you know. And another one that really got me too, again, it's I can't pronounce her name, was like Ysayle. She was formerly Lady Iceheart. Man, I did not care for her at all. She just kind of seemed like a smug bad guy that I really didn't think was gonna have that much depth. But, you know, all her ambitions and her being somebody even more than a lot of the, you know, our protagonists, she wanted, you know, peace even more than a lot of they did. You know, it took her trying to convince some of, you know, our people to want peace. And, you know, even when some of our people didn't think peace was possible, she never, you know, let up. She always knew peace was an option. She did not want to give up on that. You know, she put her life on the line to show that peace is always going to be an option. And in the end, you know, she never even got to revel in that peace. She never got to be able to breathe that air of peace, you know, when it was properly established. I know, you know, her spirit, you know, got to see, you know, that we ended up succeeding and stuff, you know, and she got to be able to truly be at peace now. But it's like she didn't get to experience the peace that she truly fought for. She got to face the peace that inevitably comes for all of us, but that's not the same kind of peace. And honestly, it hurts, man. And just the way she died and she took that fall, you know, and the thing is, when she powered up and she went to take on the enemy, she knew she was gonna die. And honestly, at this point, I still wasn't even sure, but she knew what was coming. And the fact that she trusted us in a similar vein as in Lord Harshfall, like, she trusted us to be able to see this through, you know, and even that sacrifice even touched the dragons. You know, they were able to see that she was willing to sacrifice for this, and they were willing to place our bet, you know, their bet on us too. And we were able to quell Nidhogg and truly make peace for Ishgard. And I know I'm not really going into the intricate depths of, you know, all this aspects of the story, but I'm just talking about some of the highlights that really stuck out to me. And man, it's hard to really, I guess, fathom all the stuff that I went through, because again, each of these expansions is much longer than the average Final Fantasy game. You may spend, you know, maybe 30 to 40 hours in a Final Fantasy game, but I spent hundreds with these people, man. They were the ones I talked to, see, you know, I said what's up to, you know, that took my missions from, fought alongside, you know, and you can't take those hours away from me. You know, they're always going to be something with me. They're always going to be the ones that it made me feel like, why did we have to be the one, you know, that lived, you know, in a way. I know it sounds silly, but sometimes being the one that, you know, stays behind, the one that has to live on, is harder than just being able to end the journey there. You know, we have to remember the fates of all the people, you know, that didn't get to see what they were, you know, working towards. You know, I'm glad I got to see, you know, the world that they wanted, you know, to have established, but I'm sad that I have to be the only one seeing it. Yeah, I know I have my other scions and stuff, but I feel like, you know, Lord Harshfon and, you know, Ysael, they cared about Ishgard's fate more than I do. You know, I'm just a visitor here. Even though I care about, you know, the entire world, you know, I care about this place, but at the end of the day, this is their home, you know. This is somewhere that they care about way more. You know, and I know Ysael is more, you know, caring about, you know, the dragons and humans just getting along in general. But, you know, the relationship between these two people, you know, involving this place has way more to do with these two than it does for me. And the fact that the people who wanted to see it thrive the most didn't get to, you know, actually see that, it hurts, man. It hurts. It really does. Like someone like, and it was reinforced by the boss battles, you know, like, you know, I had the weight of these people's lives and their sacrifices on my back, you know, on my shoulders as I marched forward, taking on, you know, the king and his corruption and stuff like that, trying to become a god king and stuff like that. You know, I was able to go in myself, Quill Nidhogg's rage, you know, we were able to go and save Estinian, you know, and it felt good that we were able to save somebody, but the fact that, you know, we couldn't save everybody and we all couldn't be celebrating together for the future of Ishgard, you know, it still sucks. But I'm happy that not only did, you know, we, you know, bring a better relationship, you know, between the humans and the dragons, but we also ended up being able to make the human, you know, relationships better. Like, you know, discovering, you know, the House of Royalty and the House of Commons and stuff. That not only just, you know, makes things better for, you know, us, but it makes things better for every bit of person there. It didn't matter what kind of family you were brought up in or anything. Everybody is fighting for, you know, equality in Ishgard. You know, royalty will be royalty, but, you know, honestly, with, you know, Sir Amric there, you know, leading the charge in the House of Royalty, you know, it really brings things around and gives me hope for the future of these people. I'm not too sure how much influence, you know, Ishgard, you know, how much influence Ishgard has over the grand scheme of things after Heavensward, and this is of course including the post-game patches and stuff like that, but I'm not too sure what their influence is in, you know, Stormblood or, you know, or Shadowbringers, or what they'll even have in, you know, Endwalker. But the fact that, you know, I feel like I can take my eyes off of Ishgard and trust in the people that we're leaving behind there, you know, to be able to make peace for everybody that has to live there day to day. It makes me happy. I can trust that these people will do it. I think Ishgard is in safe hands. And honestly, I feel like this is all I can say right now. I guess I just need more time to articulate the best way to talk about this, and maybe I'll talk about it in a live stream, but maybe something I said in this video reminded you of how you felt, you know, when you got to finishing this expansion. You know, a lot of people tell me it's like, you know, peak Final Fantasy and stuff like that, and I'm hearing, it's funny because I'm hearing a lot of people say that Heavensward was peak Final Fantasy story until Shadowbringers. I'm not too sure if Shadowbringers will beat, you know, Heavensward for me, but I hope so. And I know some people give flack to Stormblood, probably because, you know, anything that comes after Heavensward, you know, right? You know, it's always gonna have a hard time. And, you know, especially if some people didn't like Stormblood as much, and if Shadowbringers is as good as Heavensward, obviously that was gonna feel like we came back. So I don't know, who knows, maybe Endwalker will have that same effect. I have no idea. I've recorded like 5 videos in a row, so I'm kind of tired now. But let me know down in the comments down below. Did you enjoy Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward? Did hearing some of this stuff, if you haven't played it and you still decide to watch it anyway, does this make you want to play Final Fantasy XIV? Let me know down in the comments below. Let me know your experience with Heavensward if you have played the game, and hit the like button if you're able to relate to any of the feelings that I had. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is KingdomAce, and remember, my warriors of courage, stay strong, stay beautiful, and always look skyward.